All right, let's talk about job satisfaction. Now, there are two things that I want to share with you. Job satisfaction is something we're all familiar with, and probably all of us have gotten involved or are involved in some fashion with job satisfaction surveys. Right? We all know about it. Well, I'm going to tell you, very often they're either designed poorly or administered poorly. And so we're sitting there just wasting time and resources. So let's talk about the design element. Because job satisfaction surveys can be an incredibly powerful diagnostic tool of engagement. We all know this, but it's sort of, garbage in, garbage out. If the survey isn't done right, if it's not designed and administered right, we're not doing it. We're fooling ourselves. The first thing that I've noticed over my years in consulting in the field is often in job satisfaction surveys, we do ask people, how do you feel about pay? How do you feel about the work environment? How do you feel about your coworkers, your supervisors? How do you feel about the company overall? Don't we ask all those questions? We sure do. Here's one thing that I believe is underrepresented in job satisfaction surveys, and yet it's the strongest influencer of engagement, and that is satisfaction with the work itself. The content of the work a person does has been shown to be among the strongest influencers of engagement. Any ideas why we may not ask questions about work content? Anyone? Any thoughts? All four people in the room are putting you on the spot? No? I'll tell you why. One, as HR people, we assume, well, he or she applied for this job. They knew what they were getting into. Of course, they wouldn't apply for the job if it was going to make them unhappy. So we presume that people understand what they're getting into and they desire the job we're getting. That's why they applied for it. Not always true, for a lot of reasons. They may be applying for a title. A title in this company and a title in that company may be the same title, but their work content may be very different. How that title relates within the bigger department could be very different. It's very difficult to just presumably say, well, they applied for the job, it must make them happy. The second reason why we don't check for this is because who wants to mess with job design? Do we really want to ask people if they're happy with the content of their work? What if they say no? What do we do then? I mean, it's easy to go and make adjustments to pay systems or train supervisors or whatever, but how easy is it really to change the job design of the work people do? A lot of the time, we don't even have the resources. We don't know how to do it. We don't have the time, we don't have the money to really get into job design. Most of the time, my experience is there is no job design. Job descriptions exist, they just exist. They're not the result of systematic job analyses and job evaluations. The design isn't there. So do we really want to ask about it? And yet, it's the strongest influencer of engagement. Now, what is this thing? Job thing. Satisfaction with the work itself. Third bullet. There are things that we can check. We can put questions in our job satisfaction surveys, and I would encourage you to not put them all, don't cluster them. Spread them throughout the job satisfaction survey, and then have somebody who understands which questions to pick, right? So don't make them questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your job satisfaction survey. Make them question 3, 9, 12, 19, 26. But know how to cluster them afterwards. Okay? But can we ask questions about how they think about job variety? Sure we do. My question to you is, off the top of your head, when you look at this, variety, identity, significance, autonomy, feedback, do you know off the top of your head whether you have specific questions that check these elements?
we have in on our onboarding process, okay, in the first 90 days, when employees first come in.
Yeah.
But we use targeted selection for interviewing, and we go through the job. We have a whole compensation structure, job banding, and all the job descriptions where we've written. And so it's really important to us during that first 90 days that we know that they do like their job. And a lot of these things are addressed.
Right. What happens after the 90 days?
Well, see, that's just it. You know, the surveys that we have done don't necessarily touch on those.
Bingo.
Okay, with employees who have been there a long time.
Bingo. And you're not, in fact, you're the norm. You're the norm.
Okay.
We do not ask these questions.
Well, I wonder if that's because jobs change so much too. I mean,
I
think about the HR profession for all the number of years I've been in it and how much things have changed.
Which, it sort of brings me to a side point. Thank you for saying that. How often should we be doing job satisfaction surveys? Once a year?
Yes, probably.
More
Not
frequent
twice.
than that. Yeah, at least twice a year. And I was with Randstad, which is the second largest staffing and HR consulting services in the world, company in the world. 20 billion euros in revenue a year. We did those suckers every quarter. There's another reason why. That is because then you can take the data, the results you get from it, and correlate them with quarterly results on the financials you get from it. If you're only doing them one a year, it's very difficult. You got to wait 3-4 years. If you do job satisfaction surveys more frequently, you're checking on the change in mood from one quarter to the next. Lots of things can happen. Supervisors come and go, managers come and go, jobs change, people get transferred. Lots of things can happen from one quarter to the next. Why we don't do it more often? It's a pain in the ass, that's why. Right? It takes time, it takes money, we're running from one day to the next, just running the operation to really think about the strategic elements of this thing. But I'm here to tell you, if we did job satisfaction surveys quarterly, and we had questions like these, and that's audit number 2, I would encourage you, make sure you go to your job satisfaction surveys and look at the design. Are there questions there that represent these elements? You need to know specifically how people feel about the content of the work they do. And when you get unpleasant results, that ought to translate into some kind of an action plan in terms of job design. But here's where things get tricky. We think if we give somebody the best job there is, lots of variety, lots of responsibility, lots of all these wonderful things, they're going to be happy. That isn't the case. That's where stuff gets really tricky. There are 2 human traits that are moderators, we call them moderators, of the level of satisfaction a person feels about their job. The first one is something that we call growth needs strength. Now, are you familiar with that term? Anyone? Okay. Immensely important. It is a moderator. So, let's say Harry is kind of a low need strength. Okay, low growth need strength. What that means is Harry doesn't have a whole lot of need for autonomy and variety. Harry can feel satisfied in a fairly simple, fixed kind of environment and work. You give Harry this fantastic, dynamic job, Harry's going to be overwhelmed. You're going to get the opposite result. So, here's the trick. Not only do you need to know how a person feels about their job, but how they fall on this moderator. And this is incredibly important during the selection process. And do we check? No. Every time I talk about growth needs strength, people are like, who? Or what? Okay. But imagine, bring to your minds examples of people who, when interviewed and hired, you felt they were solid for the job, they were qualified, and yet they ended up being such a misfit, and they were underwhelmed, overwhelmed. Here's the problem. You take someone, I actually score very high on the growth needs strength. You put me in kind of what I would describe as a vanilla, boring, sort of repetitive job, I'm going to take a 45 and shoot myself in the head. There's no way, right? But you take someone else who has low growth needs strength, and one person's not better than the other. This is how we are, right? You take a person that scores lower on that scale and put it in the same job. Perfect match. So, we need to have assessments during the selection process to understand where people fall, and we need to check our own employees and have them take it so we can create the profiles. We need to understand what kind of range is ideal in terms of growth needs strength. What kind of range is ideal for particular jobs? Once we have evaluated the jobs and we know, okay, this is a job that doesn't have a lot of variety, it doesn't have a lot of autonomy, someone who scores lower would be better than someone who scores higher. They may both, let's say they're accounting candidates. Both of them CPAs, both of them same experience, all of good stuff. What might make a difference is this. And it should be a criterion for selection that has been properly validated and is part of a selection procedure, and then our existing employees are our baseline. There's what we benchmark to create the profile because we know who's performing and who's not. Right? We don't do any of that. We just don't.
We're starting to do that though.
Awesome.
Succession planning and more about talent management, especially with our high flows, okay? And those are the ones that, like you described yourself, okay, in terms of, high growth needs, okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that should just be stagnant in this position.
Right.
You want to be able to move, even if it doesn't have to be up, it can just be
it can
broader,
be, sure.
responsibilities.
Job enrichment, all
It can be into a different functional area,
Sure.
which we've had some of that as well.
Sure.
Just based on the person, what their desires are, and the experiences that they've
Yeah.
had along the way. So we're starting to do that.
Yeah. So you'll see the recommendations here in the set. All right. Diagnostics of engagement, self-efficacy. Here is another moderator of job satisfaction. So what happens here is, and self-efficacy is like a fancy way of saying confidence. If someone is lacking the confidence, okay, that they need to believe they can perform, as we already discussed, elements of expectancy can collapse. Now, this is a complex psychological process. It involves history of prior successes and failures, the acquisition of what we call KSAs, right? Knowledge, skills, abilities, social elements of persuasion. Sometimes people say, oh, the cheerleaders, you can do it, and then they fall on their face, right? So social elements of persuasion, emotions, moods, all kinds of things can affect self-efficacy. Again, my question is, how often do we have instruments, both in our selection process and in our performance management and job evaluation, job satisfaction processes that check for self-efficacy? Now, people often ask of me and say, okay, but when you're doing a job satisfaction survey, that's anonymous. You can't get down to the individual level of checking self-efficacy scores of individual people. Yeah, it's true. You can do it in the selection process. One of the things that I've been able to do successfully with job satisfaction surveys, you got to have a department of more than one or two people, right? Is find a way to identify job satisfaction survey inputs by department. The way to do it is color code the sheets of paper. Accounting gets green, HR gets blue, finance gets yellow, production gets red, whatever. You can color code departments, shifts, whatever. Because if you want to find out, do we have a job satisfaction issue that we can pinpoint? Imagine if you went to third shift in the production line and scores about management supervision come distinctively lower than the same scores of the other shifts. What does that tell you? That supervisor on the third shift is a problem. If you do global surveys and you don't separate them in any way, you're going to lose that pattern in the shuffle. So color coding or other ways, if you do it electronically, you can give people codes and the codes correspond to specific departments or shifts or business units or whatever. To find a way to dig a little deeper so that you can find patterns in a more localized area. That make sense? All right, awesome. All right, so.
Well, and then you can follow that up too after the survey.
Yeah.
With focus groups.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because I know we went through that process when we developed our leadership training.
Exactly. So we've got 3 things. Remote attendees, I don't know, I'm seeing a comment from Josh saying I can't change content. I don't know what that means. I don't know if it means that as I'm scrolling through the slides, your screen is frozen or would not. But remember, if you have an issue, you have the PowerPoint presentation in your email. So you can open the PowerPoint presentation from your email and follow it that way. Oh, answer to your previous question. Okay, sorry, Josh. All right, 3 recommendations. Okay, 1, integrate the 5 elements of employees' satisfaction with the work itself so that they are represented in job satisfaction surveys. 2, integrate the moderator of growth needs strength in various instruments, selection, training, performance management, all of these things. And I have a quick little, if you want to take a sample, that's a live link. So if you click it, it's thinking. I don't know, there it is. All right, here's a tool. I would encourage you, go home, take it. It's only, I don't know, a dozen questions. Take it, it'll give you a score. You kind of see where you fall in the pattern. And that's from, some OB place up in Canada. There's obviously instruments that you can look up and find and integrate, right? But if you want to do that exercise for yourselves, I would say go ahead and do it. It could be eye-opening, right? All right. Back to the presentation. Where is it? There it is. Same with self-efficacy. Get that in there. That's the 3rd thing you can do. Again, this is a live link. We click it. If you scroll down on this page, there's 10 questions. And you see the rating scale. That, again, you can consider those or some variation of those or get an instrument or however your company does it, right? There's all kinds of ways to do it. But there are examples out there of the kinds of things you can integrate into your instruments so you can take the pulse. Questions on that? Okay. So I hope you get a to-do list together as we go through. There's lots of things that you could be doing tomorrow when you return. Because, you're not busy now. Right? All right. Now, be careful. This one, these 2 slides, the one I just showed you, and I want to make that distinction. This one is recommendations for targeted assessment. This is the people side of the business. Remember the 3 P's? Performance, process plus people equals performance. Okay? This is the people side of the business. Okay? Assessments and things that we can do for that. Now we get to the process. These are recommendations for targeted audits.